My daughter-in-law organized an elegant dinner party, but she told me in a quiet voice, "Don't come down, Mom. There's no space." I didn't argue. I just smiled. That same week, she learned that the space she denied me was the same roof she was about to lose. Let me tell you something I never imagined would happen to me at 67 years old. That night, as the aroma of roast lamb wafted up the wooden stairs to my second-floor bedroom, I was sitting on the edge of my bed, my hands trembling in my lap, not from cold, but from contained rage. Downstairs in my house, I could hear crystal-clear laughter, glasses clinking, and the soft jazz music that Chloe had put on to impress her guests, those important friends who could help Matthew with his business deals. I had spent the entire afternoon in that kitchen, peeling potatoes, chopping vegetables, preparing the very roast lamb recipe my own mother-in-law taught me 40 years ago. My hands smelled like garlic and rosemary. My back ached from standing for so long. And when the guests arrived, when I heard the doorbell and the cheerful voices filling the living room, Chloe came up the stairs, those high heels clicking like warnings. She stopped at my door. She didn't even knock. "Eleanor," she said, using that sweet voice she reserves for when she wants something, "it's better if you don't come down tonight. There's just no space at the table. We set everything for 8 people, and well, it would be awkward to squeeze in another chair, you understand?" She looked at me with those honey-colored eyes my son loves so much, expecting me to nod like I always did, like the obedient old woman I had been for months. "Of course, honey," I replied. "Don't you worry." She smiled, relieved, and ran back down, her heels clattering victories on the steps. I closed the door slowly. I stood there, listening to my own breathing. "Downstairs," someone exclaimed. "What a beautiful home you two have." And I heard Chloe's voice, proud. "Thank you. It's our little sanctuary. We decorated it ourselves." Ourselves. As if I didn't exist. I walked to my bed and sat down. From the window, I could see the lights in the backyard I had planted myself when I moved in. The purple bougainvillea I planted with my own hands. The terracotta pots I brought from my old condo. Everything Chloe now called her own. I bent down and pulled out a blue velvet box from under the bed. Small. Old. With worn-out corners. Inside, I kept something that no one in this house knew about. Not even Matthew, my only son, knew what that box contained. I stroked the soft lid, and a smile formed on my face. Not of joy, of something darker, more necessary, because that night, while they toasted downstairs with the wine that I paid for, while Chloe took credit for my roast lamb recipe as if it were her own, while my son laughed without once coming up to check on me, I decided something. I decided that the space they denied me at that table would be the same space they would lose in this house. If you want to know how an invisible grandmother became the woman who took everything from them, stay with me. This story is just beginning, and I promise you won't regret it. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming, because what happened that week changed everything. And by the time Chloe understood what she had done, it was already too late. But for you to understand how I got to that moment, I have to take you back 3 years. To the day I made the biggest mistake of my life, trusting that my family would take care of me as I had taken care of them. 3 years before that cursed dinner, I was living in a small condo, but it was mine, over in Long Beach. 2 bedrooms, a balcony overlooking the street, cream-colored walls I had painted myself after I was widowed. I'd been living there alone since I lost Arthur, my husband of 42 years. Arthur died on a Tuesday in March. A sudden heart attack while watering the plants on the balcony. He was gone so fast he didn't even get to say goodbye. I was left floating in a silence that hurt more than any scream. The first few months were a lonely hell. I cooked for 2 out of habit. I'd set his coffee mug on the table without realizing it. I talked to his photograph before bed. Matthew used to visit me every Sunday, at first, then every other week, then once a month, always with the same guilty look on his face. "Sorry, Mom, work has been intense. Chloe has so much going on, the kids have activities." I nodded, smiled, said he understood. But inside, I was dying, little by little, until one Saturday, almost a year after I was widowed, Matthew showed up unannounced. Chloe was on his arm. She wore a flawless beige pantsuit, her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. Matthew was carrying a bag with pastries and coffee. "Mom, we need to talk," my son said, sitting on the sofa his father had bought 20 years ago. I sat across from them. My heart was already beating fast. When your son says, "We need to talk," in that serious voice, it's never good news. Chloe spoke first. "Eleanor, we've been thinking a lot about you, and we're worried about you being here all alone. This condo is so far away from us. If something happened to you, we wouldn't know for hours." Matthew nodded, squeezing his wife's hand. "Mom, we want you to come live with us. We just bought a new house in Irvine. It has 2 floors, 3 bedrooms. One of them would be all yours, with a private bath, all the space you need." I felt something warm in my chest, like the sun coming through a window that had been closed for months. My son was inviting me to live with him? "We don't want you to be alone," Matthew continued. "You're my mom. I need you close. The kids need you close. And besides, you'd be a huge help with things around the house. You cook like no one else. The kids adore you." Chloe smiled. That smile I later learned to recognize as poison wrapped in honey. "It would be wonderful to have you with us, Mom Eleanor. A united family is a strong family, right?" I didn't think twice. Because when you've spent months talking to the walls, when the only voice you hear is your own, when you realize you could die in your bed and no one would notice until the smell alerted the neighbors, any invitation sounds like salvation. "Yes," I said with tears in my eyes. "Yes, I would love that." Matthew hugged me tight. He smelled like the same aftershave his father used to wear. For a moment, I felt like everything would be okay. I sold my condo in 2 months. It was a modest place, but in a good area. I got $400,000 for it, an amount that, for me, was enormous. The fruit of 40 years of work from Arthur and me. When I told Matthew the news, he got nervous. "Mom, hold on to that money. It's your nest egg, your security." But I had already made a decision. "Son, I want to help you. I know a big house costs so much. Take $300,000. It's a loan. You pay me back when you can. No rush, no interest. But I want this money to help us all live better." Matthew was quiet. He looked at Chloe. Her eyes were wide, calculating. "Mom, I can't accept that," my son said, but his voice didn't sound very convincing. "Of course you can, but I want you to sign a document, a promissory note. It's not that I don't trust you, sweetheart, but your father always said, 'Clear accounts keep friendships long,' and we're more than friends. We're family." We went to a lawyer. Mr. Arthur Hayes, an older gentleman who had known Arthur for years, drafted a simple but solid document. Matthew acknowledged the debt of $300,000. He would have 5 years to repay it. And if he failed to do so, I would have the legal right to 50% of the property. Matthew signed it without reading it closely. He was anxious, excited. The house of his dreams was about to be his. Chloe wasn't present for the signing. Matthew said she had a doctor's appointment with the kids. I put that document in my blue velvet box, and I moved in with them 2 weeks later. The first 6 months were magical. Chloe called me Mom Eleanor, with genuine affection. She asked for my cooking advice. She asked me about the plants in the garden. The kids would run to hug me when they got home from school. I felt useful, alive, necessary. I cooked for everyone. I helped with the cleaning. I watched the kids when Matthew and Chloe went out. I felt like part of something again. Until one day, everything changed. It was something small, almost imperceptible. Chloe walked into the living room and saw I had moved a vase from the center coffee table to the windowsill. It was an ugly, plain glass vase. I replaced it with a beautiful piece of hand-blown glass I brought back from a trip to Vermont. Chloe stopped in her tracks. "Eleanor, who told you could move things around?" Her voice was different, cold. "I'm sorry, honey. I just thought it looked nicer. This glass is authentic. It has history." She walked to the windowsill, took my glass art, and put it away in a cabinet. She put her glass vase back in the center. "It's just that this is my house, Eleanor, and I like things where I put them. I hope you understand." She went to her room without looking back. I just stood there, feeling something inside me crack. That night, I told Matthew what happened. He sighed. Tired. Mom, Chloe is just very particular about her decorating. Don't take it personally. Just ask before you move things, okay? He didn't defend me. He didn't even look me in the eye. That was the first crack, and like all cracks, it started small. But over time it became an abyss that swallowed me whole. After the vase incident, things began to change so slowly that at first I thought it was my imagination. But it wasn't. Chloe started redecorating everything. First, it was the curtains. I had brought a set from my condo, mustard yellow with handmade embroidery from an artisan in Santa Fe. I had hung them in the living room with so much love. They were my little piece of identity in that house. One Saturday, I came home from grocery shopping, and they were gone. In their place were gray, modern, cold, soulless blinds. "And my curtains, Chloe?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She didn't even look up from her phone. "Oh, Eleanor, I donated them. They just didn't go with the minimalist aesthetic I want for this house. Those old things just collect dust and look so dated." Dated. That word hurt more than it should have. "But I made those," I started to say. "I know," she cut me off, "but this isn't a museum of memories, is it? It's a modern home. We have to keep up with the times." She got up and left, leaving me standing there with the grocery bag still in my hands. I didn't say anything else. I swallowed the words like poison. Then came the furniture. I had brought a wooden rocking chair where Arthur used to read the newspaper every morning. I put it in a corner of the living room, near the window. It was my spot for coffee in the afternoons. One morning I came down, and it was gone. "Where is my rocking chair?" I asked, my heart racing. "I sold it on Facebook Marketplace," Chloe replied without flinching. "It took up too much space, and besides, it was all scratched. I got you $100 for it. It's in the kitchen drawer. $100. For the last piece of furniture I had from Arthur. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Chloe, that rocker was my husband's. You had no right." "Oh, Eleanor, don't be so dramatic. It was just an old chair. Besides, you're living here rent-free. You can't expect to fill my house with your old junk." Rent-free. That word stabbed me like a knife. I looked for Matthew. He was right there, in the dining room, drinking coffee. He heard everything. "Matthew," I pleaded with my eyes. He put his cup down. He sighed as if I were the problem. "Mom, understand. Chloe is the one who keeps this house running. She decides how it looks, how it's organized. We can't be fighting over every little thing. Just let her do what she wants. It's her space. Her space, not ours, not mine, hers." I locked myself in my room and cried until my throat ached. But that was only the beginning. Weeks later, Chloe took down all the family photos from the hallway. Pictures from Matthew's wedding, photos of the kids as babies, photos of Arthur and me on our silver anniversary. She replaced them with abstract art bought at a home decor store, splotches of color with no meaning. "It's just that photos age the design," she told me when I timidly protested. "This looks more elegant, more current." She put all my memories in a cardboard box and left it in my room, as if my past life didn't deserve to be seen. And I began to feel exactly like that. Invisible. The meals changed, too. We used to cook together. I'd teach her my recipes. She seemed interested, took notes, asked about measurements. But suddenly, she stopped asking for my help. "I learned everything I needed, Eleanor. Now I prefer to cook alone. You can rest." Rest sounded nice, but what it really meant was, get out of my kitchen. I stopped cooking. I stopped setting the table. I stopped feeling like I was part of the family. I became a shadow inhabiting the second floor. Chloe started giving me orders, as if I were the hired help. "Eleanor, can you do the dishes tonight? I'm exhausted." "Eleanor, could you iron this shirt for Matthew? I just don't have time." "Eleanor, the kids came back with dirty shoes. Clean them, please." And I did it, because I was scared. Scared of being alone again. Scared that Matthew would tell me I wasn't welcome anymore. Scared of losing the only thing I had left. Being near my son. But there was something worse than the orders. It was the way Chloe talked about me when she thought I wasn't listening. One day, I was on the stairs when I heard her voice in the living room. She was on the phone with someone, probably a friend. "You have no idea how draining it is having a mother-in-law living here," she said with annoyance. "Everything smells like old lady. She stays in her pajamas until noon. She cooks with so much garlic, the house stinks. And the worst part is Matthew defends her because she's his mom. But I'm just so over it." Over it? I heard laughter from the other end of the phone. "Yeah, I know it's temporary," Chloe continued. "Eventually, she'll have to go. We'll find a place for her, but she can't stay here forever. This is my house, not a nursing home." I sat down on the step. My legs were trembling. That's how she saw me. As a temporary inconvenience, as trash waiting to be thrown out. I went up to my room without making a sound, locked the door, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 67-year-old woman with gray hair, wrinkled skin, trembling hands. I saw someone who had lost her place in the world, someone who no longer mattered. But then my eyes drifted to the blue velvet box I kept under my bed, and something inside me began to wake up. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was something more dangerous. It was the seed of revenge. Because while Chloe was erasing my existence from that house, I was keeping a secret that could erase everything, including her. There are moments in life that break you in two. Moments where the person you were before dies, and someone completely different is born. For me, that moment arrived on a Wednesday in October. I had been living like a ghost in that house for 3 months. I went up and down the stairs without making a sound. I ate alone in the kitchen while they had dinner in the dining room. I locked myself in my room before Chloe got home from the gym, so I wouldn't bother her with my presence. But that Wednesday, the toothache I had been ignoring for weeks became unbearable. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a swollen face and tears rolling down my cheeks. The left side of my mouth was throbbing as if it had its own heart, beating pain with every second. I waited until 8 o'clock to go downstairs. I didn't want to wake anyone. Matthew was in the kitchen making an espresso in that expensive machine Chloe had bought. "Honey," I said in a shaky voice, "I need to go to the dentist. It hurts so much." He looked at me with genuine concern. For a second, I saw the little boy who used to run into my arms when he fell at the park. "Is it that bad, Mom? I can't take it anymore. I need them to do something urgently." I called the clinic I had gone to for years. They gave me an appointment for that same afternoon. The diagnosis was terrible, a severe infection in a wisdom tooth. It needed immediate extraction, a deep cleaning, and special antibiotics. "It will be $1,500, the receptionist said in a neutral tone. "How will you be paying?" I felt the floor move beneath my feet. I had spent almost all my savings helping with house expenses over those months. Groceries, the kids' school uniforms. Small expenses Chloe would ask me to chip in for, since we all lived together. I had maybe $300 left in my account. "Can I pay half now and the other half later?" I asked, humiliated. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It's clinic policy. Payment in full." I went back home with a swollen face, throbbing pain, and a heart crushed by humiliation. That night, I waited for Matthew to finish dinner. Chloe was upstairs, bathing the kids. I sat across from him in the living room. "Son, I need to ask you for a favor." He put the TV remote aside. "What's up, Mom?" "I need $1,500 for the dentist. It's urgent. I promise I'll pay you back as soon as." I didn't finish the sentence because I saw something on his face I had never seen before. Inconvenience. $1,500? He repeated, as if it were an impossible amount. "Yes, honey. It's a serious infection. If I don't get it treated, it could get worse." Matthew rubbed his face with his hands. He glanced up the stairs. You could hear the water running in the bathroom. "Mom, it's just that. I have to check with Chloe." The world stopped. "Check with her?" I repeated quietly. "Yeah, we manage our finances together. She handles all the accounts. I can't just make money decisions without talking to her first." Something inside me broke with a sound no one else could hear. "Matthew," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm your mother. I need medical treatment. I'm not asking for a whim. I'm asking for help." "I know, Mom. I know. But..." But what? My voice was starting to crack. Do you need your wife's permission to help your own mother? At that moment, Chloe came down the stairs. She was wearing a champagne-colored silk robe. Her hair was up. She smelled like rose-scented cream. What's going on? She asked, in that tone of someone who already knows everything. Matthew stood up nervously. My mom needs $1,500 for the dentist. Chloe looked me up and down. She noted my swollen face, my red eyes, my hunched posture, like a woman begging for charity from her own family. Oh, Eleanor, she said with fake sympathy, $1,500 is a lot of money. Can't it wait a few months? We're a little tight right now. We just paid the kids' tuition. It's an infection, I repeated. It can't wait. Chloe sighed as if I were a spoiled child. It's just that dental treatments are so expensive. Aren't there cheaper options? There are public clinics. Free ones. You could go there. I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. Public clinics? Me, who had given her husband nearly $300,000. Me, who cooked, cleaned, watched her children. I had to go stand in line at a public clinic while she used $50 face creams and got her nails done every week. I looked at Matthew, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to remember who I was. But he just stared at the floor. Mom, he finally said, without looking up, let me see what we can do. Give me a few days. A few days. For my own son, my pain could wait a few days. I stood up slowly. I felt my knees tremble. Don't worry, I said, with a voice that didn't sound like mine. I'll figure it out. I went up the stairs, holding onto the railing. Every step was a mountain. I went into my room and locked the door. I sat on the bed and cried like I hadn't cried since I buried Arthur. I cried for the humiliation. I cried for the betrayal. I cried because the son I raised, the son I gave everything to, the son who used to sleep in my arms when he had nightmares, that son had just asked his wife for permission to help his sick mother. And the answer had been no. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the darkness, staring at the blue velvet box. I thought about Arthur, about how disappointed he would be to see what his son had become. I thought about all the sacrifices I'd made, the sleepless nights when Matthew was a baby, the extra jobs to pay for his college, the times I ate less so he could have more. And now he needed permission. Permission to love me, permission to care for me, permission to remember I existed. Something changed in me that night. The toothache was still there, but there was a new, deeper pain, a pain that antibiotics and surgery couldn't cure. The pain of knowing that to your own blood, you are no longer a priority. You are an inconvenient expense, a problem to be solved, a burden to be carried. I opened the blue box with trembling hands. I took out the document I had kept there for 3 years. I read it all under the light of my lamp, and for the first time in months, I felt something like power, because they could take away my dignity. They could take away my place at the table. They could even take away my identity, but they couldn't take away what was legally mine. And though I didn't know it yet, that piece of paper would be my revenge. And my salvation. 2 weeks after the dentist incident, Chloe came into my room on a Friday morning. She didn't knock. She never knocked. She opened the door as if walking into her own closet. Eleanor, I need you to help me this Saturday. I was sitting on the bed, reading a book of poems Arthur had given me years ago. What do you need? I asked, without looking up. I'm hosting a dinner party. Matthew invited some important clients, people who can help him close a big deal. I need everything to be perfect. I closed the book slowly. And what do you need from me? Your help in the kitchen, obviously. You're a great cook. I was thinking you could make that roast lamb you do, the one with rosemary and white wine. Matthew loves it. Of course. She needed me when it was convenient for her. What time? I asked in a neutral voice. I invited them for 8 o'clock in the evening, but I'll need you to start prepping around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a lot of food. There will be 8 of us. 8 people. I nodded without another word. Saturday arrived, overcast and cold. I went down at 3 o'clock on the dot, as she'd asked. Chloe was already in the kitchen, hair in a high bun, wearing a spotless white apron. Perfect. You're here, she said, without a greeting. Start by peeling those potatoes. I need them all cut the same size, Even, no sloppy cuts. She spoke to me as if I were her employee. But I swallowed my pride and started peeling. For the next 5 hours, I worked non-stop. I peeled potatoes, carrots, squash. I chopped onions until my eyes burned. I prepared the lamb with the recipe my mother-in-law taught me 40 years ago. The recipe passed down through generations. The one Chloe could never learn because it required love, not just ingredients. I made mashed potatoes with real butter and a touch of nutmeg. I prepared a salad with a Dijon vinaigrette. I baked a New York cheesecake that came out perfectly, glossy, with the exact caramel topping. Chloe gave me orders non-stop. Eleanor, that garlic is too coarse. Mince it finer. Eleanor, clean that skillet properly. It has spots. Eleanor, the table is set wrong. The forks go on the other side. Every order was a small stab, but I kept going, quiet, obedient. At 7:30, Chloe ran upstairs to get ready. I stayed in the kitchen, cleaning the last dishes, putting away utensils. My hands smelled like garlic and rosemary. My back ached from standing for so many hours. I had a salsa stain on my blouse. I went up to my room to change. I put on a clean, lavender-colored blouse. I combed my hair. I put on a little pale pink lipstick. I came down, ready to sit at the table because, although no one had explicitly told me, I assumed that after cooking for 5 hours, I would have a place at that dinner. Naive of me. At 8 o'clock sharp, the guests began to arrive. 3 elegant couples, the men in dark suits, the women in cocktail dresses and jewelry that sparkled under the entryway light. Chloe received them like the queen of her castle. She wore a fitted black dress, gold heels, her hair down in perfect waves. She looked radiant. Matthew was by her side, smiling, shaking hands, being the perfect host. I stood on the stairs, watching, waiting for someone to call me over. But no one did. The guests moved into the living room. I heard laughter, glasses clinking, the soft jazz music Chloe had put on the sound system. 20 minutes passed, then 30. No one came up to get me. Finally, I heard Chloe's footsteps on the stairs. She came up quickly, those heels announcing her arrival like war drums. She stopped in front of me. Her French perfume was so strong it made me dizzy. She leaned in, and in a low voice, almost a whisper, she said, "Eleanor, it's better if you don't come down tonight." I looked at her, not understanding. "What?" "It's just. There's no space at the table. We set everything for 8 people exactly. It would be awkward to squeeze in another chair. You understand? No space." Those 3 words lodged in my chest like broken glass. "But I cooked everything," I said in a shaky voice. "I know, Eleanor, and it's delicious. I'll bring a plate up for you later. But tonight is important for Matthew. We need to make a good impression. And you know how these business dinners are. Just adults. Boring conversation. You'd be more comfortable up here resting." I stared at her, searching her honey-colored eyes for any trace of humanity, but I only saw cold calculation. "Does Matthew know you're asking me this?" I asked. "It was both our idea." She lied without blinking. "He also thinks it's for the best." Something inside me wanted to scream, wanted to go down those stairs and sit at that table, wanted to tell all those elegant guests who really cooked that meal. But I didn't, because I had no pride left, only exhaustion. "All right," I said in a dead voice. "I won't come down." Chloe smiled, relieved. "Thank you, Eleanor. I knew you'd understand. You're always so compassionate." She ran back down, her heels clattering victory on every step. I stood there, in the dark upstairs hallway, listening as the dinner party began below. I heard someone exclaim, "What a beautiful home you two have." And Chloe's voice replied proudly, "Thank you. We decorated it ourselves. It's our sanctuary." Our sanctuary. As if I didn't exist. I walked slowly to my room, closed the door, sat on the bed. The smell of the lamb wafted up under the door. My lamb, my recipe, my work. I heard laughter, toasts, more music, and then I heard something that shattered me completely. A woman asked, "Doesn't Matthew's mother live with you?" There was a brief silence. Then Chloe's voice, sweet as poisoned honey. "Oh yes, my mother-in-law lives with us, but she prefers to turn in early. You know how older people are. They get tired so quickly. Laughter. They all laughed. As if I were some decrepit old woman who falls asleep at 8 o'clock in the evening. As if I hadn't just spent 5 hours cooking for them. As if I didn't exist, beyond being the mother-in-law who lives upstairs. I stood up, trembling. I walked to the window. Outside, the garden I had planted shone under the moonlight. The purple bougainvillea, the terracotta pots, the plants that grew because I watered them every morning. Everything Chloe called her own. I turned around and looked at my bed. Underneath it was the blue velvet box. I pulled it out with shaky hands. I opened it. The lamplight illuminated the document I kept inside. The promissory note. The legal agreement. The proof that this house was, in fact, also mine. And something in me changed in that moment. It wasn't pain anymore. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. A clarity as cold and crystalline as ice. Chloe had denied me a space at that table. She had turned me into an invisible servant in my own house. She had humiliated me in front of strangers. And worst of all, my son had let her. But she didn't know something. She didn't know that the space she denied me tonight was the same space she was about to lose. Because that house she so proudly called her own wasn't completely hers. And I had the power to prove it. I sat on the bed, stroking the document. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Not with happiness, with justice. Because the war had just begun, and this time, I was not going to lose. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the darkness of my room, the box open on my lap, staring at that document as if it were a map to my freedom. Downstairs, the party continued until after midnight. Laughter, music, the sound of glasses clinking again and again. No one brought me a plate of food as Chloe had promised. No one asked for me. And I was glad, because every laugh I heard, every toast they made with my wine, in my house, eating my food, was one more nail in the coffin of their arrogance. Now, let me tell you something that no one in that house knows. Something I kept for 3 years like an ace up my sleeve. When I sold my condo in Long Beach, I received $400,000. It was everything Arthur and I had built in 42 years of marriage. That money represented decades of work, of sacrifice, of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, of eating beans to save money, of not buying new clothes so Matthew could have decent school uniforms. When my son told me he wanted to buy that 2-story house with a yard, I saw the dream in his eyes. Mom, it's perfect. It has 3 bedrooms. The kids could each have their own space. And you would too. It would be our house, for the whole family. But he was short $300,000 for the down payment. The bank wouldn't lend him that much. His credit history wasn't strong enough. Chloe had just quit her job to focus on the kids. They were desperate. And I just wanted to see my son happy. Take the money, I told him one Sunday after lunch. $300,000. It's yours. Matthew's jaw dropped. Mom, I can't accept that. It's your nest egg, your security. You're my son, my only family. What do I want that money for if not to help you? But Arthur had taught me something fundamental in our years together. Love isn't at odds with prudence, Eleanor. Always protect yourself, even from those you love. And those words echoed in my head. Matthew, I'll give you the money, but on one condition. He looked at me, confused. What? You have to sign a legal document. A promissory note, where you acknowledge that this is a loan, not a gift. You'll pay me back when you can. No rush, no interest. But I want it in writing. I saw the doubt in his eyes. Mom, don't you trust me? Of course I trust you. But life takes many turns, sweetheart. And your father always said, clear accounts keep love long. This protects us both. He reluctantly agreed. I went to Mr. Arthur Hayes, the lawyer who had known Arthur since they were young, a serious man, meticulous, the kind who doesn't leave loose ends. Mrs. Eleanor, he said as he drafted the document, I'd like to suggest something, with your permission. Tell me, Mr. Hayes. In addition to the promissory note, we should include a security clause. In the event your son cannot repay you within the agreed-upon time frame, You would have the legal right to claim a percentage of the property. Matthew shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Is that necessary? He asked. It's prudent, Mr. Hayes replied. We're not saying you won't pay, Mr. Matthew. But in legal terms, your mother is investing nearly $300,000 in a real estate asset for which she would otherwise have no collateral. This protects her. I looked at my son. What do you say, honey? He sighed, looked at the ceiling, then looked at me. Okay, whatever you say, Mom. Mr. Hayes drafted the full document. I, Matthew Cifuentes, acknowledge receipt from my mother, Eleanor Cifuentes, the sum of $300,000 as an interest-free loan for the acquisition of the property located at 452 Oakwood Drive, Irvine, California. I commit to settling this debt within a maximum period of 5 years from the date of signing. In the event of total default at the end of the established term, the lender, Eleanor Cifuentes, will have the irrevocable legal right to 50% of the aforementioned property, being registered as co-owner before the corresponding authorities. Matthew signed. I signed. Mr. Hayes notarized it, and that document was legally registered. We left the lawyer's office, and Matthew hugged me tight. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll pay you back. Every penny. I swear it on Dad's memory. I know, son. I know. But there was something I didn't tell him in that moment. Something I kept quiet because I didn't want to spoil his happiness. When Chloe found out I had given money for the house, her reaction was strange. We were in the kitchen, days after the signing. Eleanor, Matthew told me you put money down for the house. How generous. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes weren't. He's my son, I replied. I'd do anything for him. Of course. But how wonderful that you did it as a gift, because imagine if it were a loan. That would be so awkward, right? Living in a house where you owe your own mother money. I stayed quiet. She kept talking as she chopped vegetables. Besides, this house is ours, Matthew's and mine, our home, where we're going to raise our children. How awful would it be to think that someone else has rights to it, right? I understood in that moment that Matthew had never told her about the document. He never told her he'd signed a promissory note. He never mentioned the 5-year clause. Chloe thought I had just gifted her husband $300,000, no strings attached, and I let her believe it. Because something told me that one day, that ignorance would be my most powerful weapon. I put the document in my blue velvet box. I hid it under my bed, and for 3 years, I never mentioned it again. Not even when Matthew never paid me a single dollar. Not even when the 5-year deadline was getting dangerously close. Not even when Chloe started treating me like dirt. I kept it like a bomb, waiting for the exact right moment to detonate it. And that night, after the dinner where I was forbidden to come down, after hearing myself described as the old woman who gets tired early, after being invisible in my own house, I knew that moment had arrived. I took out my cell phone. I searched my contacts. Mr. Samuel Roth, Mr. Hayes's partner, a 71-year-old lawyer, a specialist in family and property law, a close friend of Arthur's. I texted him at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Roth, this is Eleanor, Arthur Cifuentes' widow. I need to see you urgently. I have a document I need to execute. Can you see me on Monday? The reply came 20 minutes later. Mrs. Eleanor, of course. I'll expect you at 10 o'clock in the morning at my office. Whatever it is, we'll solve it. I closed the phone. I looked at the document one more time, and I smiled. A smile Arthur would have recognized, the smile of someone with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Because Chloe could keep her perfect table, her elegant guests, her illusion of being queen of the castle. But that castle was built on sand, and I was the tide that was about to wash it all away. The days after that dinner party were like falling down an endless flight of stairs. Every day was a step deeper into invisibility. Chloe didn't even bother to hide her contempt anymore. On Monday morning, I went down to breakfast as I always did. I made coffee in the old coffee pot I had brought from my condo. Chloe came into the kitchen in her tight-fitting workout clothes, ready for the gym. She looked at me as if she'd just found a cockroach on the counter. Eleanor, can you have breakfast earlier or later? I need the kitchen at this time to make the kids' smoothies. You're in my way. You're in my way. Those 3 words tattooed themselves on my skin. Of course, I said, picking up my mug. I'll go up to my room. Perfect. That's better for everyone. I climbed the stairs with my lukewarm coffee and my pride in ashes. From that day on, I started eating in my room, like a prisoner in my own house. On Tuesday, while I was watering the plants in the garden, that purple bougainvillea I had planted myself when I moved in, Chloe stormed out of the house. "Who gave you permission to water?" she yelled from the doorway. I dropped the hose on the grass. "I'm sorry. I thought they needed water. We have a gardener for that. His name is Esteban. He comes on Thursdays. We don't need you playing gardener. But I planted these." "Well, everything here is mine now," she interrupted with a sharp voice. "The plants, the garden, the house, the furniture, everything. So don't touch anything without asking me first. Is that clear?" I stood there, my hands wet, feeling the tears threatening to fall. "It's clear," I whispered. She went back inside, slamming the door. I just stared at my bougainvillea, those flowers I had tended for 3 years. Plants that grew because I talked to them every morning, because I gave them special compost, because I pruned them with love. And now I couldn't even water them without asking permission. Wednesday was worse. I went down to the living room because I wanted to watch television. I just wanted a distraction, to watch a cooking show or an old movie. Chloe was there, doing yoga on a turquoise mat. "Eleanor, what do you need?" she asked without opening her eyes, twisted into a human pretzel. "I just wanted to watch a little TV." "Oh, you can't. I'm expecting guests in half an hour. Some friends are coming for tea, and I need the living room to be available. Besides, I can't concentrate on my practice with the TV on. So where can I be?" She opened one eye, looked at me like I was stupid. "In your room, I guess, or go for a walk. It's a nice day." Her room. As if the rest of the house wasn't also mine. I went up without another word. From my window, I saw 3 elegant women arrive, perfect hair, designer bags, expensive clothes. They walked into my house laughing as if they were at a private club. I heard their voices, their laughter, the clinking of porcelain teacups, and then I heard something that froze my blood. One of them asked, "Chloe, is your mother-in-law still living here?" Yes," Chloe replied, in that fed-up tone I knew so well. "She's around. Upstairs, I think. She just prefers to be in her room. She doesn't really like to socialize." Liar. I didn't prefer to be upstairs. I had been banished there. Another voice said, "That must be so hard, right? Having your mother-in-law living with you." "You have no idea," Chloe sighed. "But, well, it's temporary. Eventually, we're going to find a place for her where she can be better cared for. An assisted living home or something." Silence. Then uncomfortable laughter. "Well, you know what's best for your family," one of them said. "Exactly. This is my house, and I have to think about my kids, my marriage. I can't live forever with an elderly woman who needs constant attention." Elderly woman. As if I were a piece of old, inconvenient furniture. I shut the window with so much force the glass rattled. I sat on my bed, shaking with rage. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Roth. He answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Eleanor, how are you?" "Mr. Roth," I said, my voice cracking, "I need to move up our appointment. I can't wait until Monday. Can you see me tomorrow?" There was a pause. "Are you all right? Did something happen?" "I'm fine. But I need to act fast, before it's too late. Come in tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And bring the document. I'll be there." That night, Matthew came home late from work. I heard him go straight to his room, without stopping to say hello. He didn't even ask about me anymore. I had become invisible, even to my own son. On Thursday morning, I got ready with care. I put on a navy blue dress Arthur had given me for our last anniversary. I put on a little makeup. I did my hair carefully. I went down the stairs clutching my purse, which held the velvet box. Chloe was in the kitchen, making the kids breakfast. "Where are you going, all dressed up, Eleanor?" she asked in a mocking tone. "I have an appointment," I replied, not looking at her. "Oh, how nice. By the way, when you get back, could you do the breakfast dishes? I have a million things to do today." I didn't answer. I walked out of the house, feeling her eyes on my back. Mr. Roth's office was downtown, in an old building with mosaic floors and huge windows. I went up in an old elevator that creaked on every floor. Mr. Roth received me with a fatherly hug. He was a tall man, with pure white hair, thick glasses, and a look that conveyed wisdom and experience. "Mrs. Eleanor, please sit down. Tell me what's happening." And then, for the first time in months, I broke down. I told him everything. The humiliation of the dinner party, the constant orders, the invisibility, the contempt, the conversations I'd overheard, the plan to send me to a nursing home. I spoke for 40 minutes straight. When I finished, my eyes were red and my hands were shaking. Mr. Roth handed me a cloth handkerchief. "Mrs. Eleanor," he said in a grave voice, "what you're describing is abuse. Emotional abuse, financial abuse. And you are not alone. We have legal tools to protect you." I took the document out of the box. I handed it to him with trembling hands. He read it slowly, took off his glasses, cleaned them, put them back on. He reread it. Then he smiled. "This is solid as a rock, Eleanor. This is ironclad. Mr. Hayes did an impeccable job. This document is notarized. It's completely legal, irrefutable. What can I do with it? You can do 2 things. First option, demand full payment of the debt. $300,000. If your son can't pay, he would have to sell the house or get the money elsewhere. Second option, execute the co-ownership clause. Legally claim 50% of the property, become an official co-owner. And if I do that, then you would have the legal right to live there without anyone being able to kick you out. Or you could sell your share, or demand they sell the entire house and split the proceeds. The power would be in your hands. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. How long would it take? If we start today, in 2 weeks, we'd have everything ready. Legal notification, registration of co-ownership, everything. "Do it," I said, without hesitation. "Do whatever is necessary." Mr. Roth nodded. "Are you sure, Mrs. Eleanor? Because this is going to change everything. Your relationship with your son, with your daughter-in-law, there will be no going back." I looked him straight in the eye. "Mr. Roth, my relationship with my son is already broken. My daughter-in-law treats me like trash. I have nothing left to lose. But I have a whole lot to get back, starting with my dignity." He smiled sadly. "Your husband would be very proud of you." I left that office with my heart pounding. Not from fear, from determination. Because the war was no longer a possibility. It was a reality. And I had just fired the first shot. 3 days after my meeting with Mr. Roth, the worst thing happened. Something I never imagined my own son would be capable of doing. It was Sunday afternoon. I was in my room reading, trying to keep busy while I waited for news from the lawyer. I went down to the kitchen for a glass of water. The house was silent. The kids were playing in the neighbor's yard. I thought Matthew and Chloe had gone out. But then I heard their voices. They were coming from the living room. They were speaking softly, but not softly enough. I froze in the hallway, hidden behind the wall. "I can't take it anymore, Matthew," Chloe was saying, her voice exasperated. "Your mother is driving me crazy. She's everywhere. Her smell of lavender cream is all over the house. When I have guests over, I'm embarrassed. My friends ask me why she's still living here. Chloe, she's my mother," Matthew started to say. "Exactly. Your mother, not mine. I didn't sign up to live with a mother-in-law attached at the hip 24/7. This isn't an assisted living facility." There was a long silence. Then I heard my son sigh deeply. "What are you proposing?" he asked, his voice tired. "That we find a place for her. There are some very good residences, with gardens, nurses, activities. She'd be better cared for. She'd have people her own age. She wouldn't be so lonely." My heart started pounding so hard I thought I would faint. "A nursing home?" Matthew said. "Don't call it that. They're senior living residences, dignified places. I've been researching. There's one in Riverside that looks beautiful. It has a pool, a library, painting classes. And what does that cost? There are options. From $5,000 a month up to $10,000, depending on the level of care." $5,000? Matthew repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, And look, I know it sounds expensive, but think about it. You spend money on her here, too. Food, electricity, water, gas, it all adds up. And this way, we get our privacy back, our house, our space as a family. Another silence. My breathing was so ragged I had to cover my mouth with my hand. I don't know, Chloe. She's my mom. I promised my dad I'd take care of her. And you are taking care of her. But taking care of her doesn't mean sacrificing your marriage, your peace of mind, your home. Matthew, let's be honest. She's older now. She needs more attention than we can give her. In a residence, she'd have professional care. It wouldn't be abandonment. It would be the best thing for everyone, even for her. You think so? I'm sure. Besides, look at how things are lately. She barely leaves her room. She's sad, depressed. She's not happy here, Matthew. Admit it. Of course I wasn't happy. How could I be happy when I was treated like inconvenient furniture? Let me think about it, Matthew said finally. There's not much to think about, honey. Do it for us, for the kids, for our family. Let's look at options this week. We can visit a couple of places, no commitment, just to see. All right, my son gave in. Let's see what's out there. Perfect. Let's find one that's nice but not too expensive. There are some for $5,000 or $6,000 that look decent. Decent? As if I were a dog they needed to find a decent shelter for. Yeah, Matthew said, one that's dignified, with a garden and stuff. Obviously, honey, we're not going to send her to some ugly place. But we do need to solve this soon. We've been at this for 3 years. It's enough. I heard their footsteps approaching. I ran up the stairs, making as little noise as possible. I got into my room and locked the door. I stood there, leaning against the door, trying to process what I had just heard. My son. My only son. The child I carried in my womb for 9 months. The baby I nursed for a year. The boy who cried in my arms when he fell off his bike. The teenager who hugged me when his father died. That same son had just agreed to lock me away in a nursing home because his wife was fed up, because my scent filled the house, because I was an embarrassment. I walked to the mirror. I saw myself. A 67-year-old woman, white hair, wrinkled skin, hands that trembled slightly. An invisible, disposable woman. An inconvenience with an expiration date. But then my eyes fell to the blue velvet box on my bed. I opened it slowly, took out the document, and also took out my phone. I dialed Mr. Roth's number without a second thought. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mrs. Eleanor, is everything all right? Mr. Roth, I said, in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. A cold, hard, determined voice. Proceed with everything. Now, I want you to start the legal process immediately. I want to execute the co-ownership clause. I want them to find out, in the most official way possible, that this house is also mine. And that nobody, absolutely nobody, is going to lock me in any damn nursing home. There was a pause. Are you certain, Mrs. Eleanor? Once we start, there's no going back. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. Then we begin tomorrow morning. In 1 week, we'll have everything ready. Prepare yourself, because when they find out, there's going to be a storm. Let there be a storm, I replied, because I am no longer the scared old woman they think I am. I am the hurricane that's about to destroy their castle of lies. I hung up the phone. I sat on the bed. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt powerful, because they could plan my destiny. But I had the power to change theirs. And that very week, Chloe was going to learn something she would never forget. That the space she denied me at her table was the same roof she was about to lose. That night I didn't close my eyes, not out of sadness, but out of absolute clarity. I sat on my bed, the document spread out in front of me, reading every word, every clause, every line that gave me back the power I had lost. And while the world outside slept, I planned my counterattack. Because it's one thing to be humiliated, it's another thing entirely to stay silent. On Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. It was Mr. Roth. Mrs. Eleanor, I have news. I've reviewed the entire file. The document is impeccable. We are initiating the process this afternoon. I need you to come in and sign some additional papers. How fast can we do this? I asked. If all goes well, in 7 business days, we will have the official notification ready. We'll send it via certified mail and also by a process server. They won't be able to ignore it. It will be legally registered that you are a 50% co-owner of that home. A shiver ran down my spine. And what can they do? Nothing. The document was signed before a notary. It's registered. It's irrefutable. Your son will have 3 options. Pay you the $300,000 in full, accept the co-ownership, and live with that reality, or sell the property and divide the profits. Perfect, I said in a firm voice. Do it. There's something else I want to suggest, Mrs. Eleanor. Tell me. Don't say anything to them yet. Act normal, as if nothing is happening. When they receive the notification, the impact will be greater. Legally, you will be protected because everything will have been done through the proper channels. No prior confrontations they can use against you. Act normal? I repeated. Exactly. Be the invisible grandmother they think you are. Let them keep underestimating you. In the meantime, we will prepare everything, and when they least expect it, boom, the legal blow. A smile formed on my face. I like that plan. Good. I'll see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Bring your official ID and a copy of your birth certificate. I hung up, feeling more alive than I had in months. For the next few days, I did exactly what Mr. Roth told me. I acted as if nothing was wrong. I went down to the kitchen early, before Chloe, so I wouldn't be in the way. I locked myself in my room when her friends came over. I smiled when she gave me orders. I nodded when she spoke to me like I was a foolish child. But inside, every humiliation turned into fuel. On Tuesday, while I was making coffee, Chloe came down in her bathrobe. Eleanor, can you wash these dishes? I'm late for the gym. Of course, honey, I replied with false sweetness. She didn't even thank me. She ran out with her designer gym bag, leaving the kitchen a mess. I washed the dishes, picturing her face when she received the notification. On Wednesday, I overheard another conversation. Chloe was on the phone in the garden. She thought I couldn't hear her from my window. Yes, girl, we already found a place. It's a residence in Riverside. Not bad. Costs about $5,500 a month, but it's worth it. It has a garden and a TV room. My mother-in-law will be happy there, surrounded by old people like her, and we'll finally get our house back. Get her house back. How ironic. On Thursday, Mr. Roth called me. Mrs. Eleanor, everything is ready. The official notification will be sent out on Friday. It should arrive Monday morning. Are you prepared? More than ever. Do you have somewhere to go for a few days, in case the situation gets tense? I'm not going anywhere, I replied firmly. That house is just as much mine as it is theirs. I'm not hiding. I understand. But I want you to know something important. Once they receive that notification, they legally cannot kick you out. If they try, it would be an illegal eviction, and we could press criminal charges against them. You have every right on your side. Perfect. And one more thing, Mrs. Eleanor. Yes? Your husband would be very proud of the brave woman you are. Those words broke me and rebuilt me at the same time. On Friday morning, Matthew spoke to me for the first time in days. He came up to my room with a guilty face. Mom, can we talk? Of course, honey, sit down. He sat on the edge of my bed, nervous, fidgeting with his hands. Mom, Chloe and I have been thinking, and we believe that maybe, just maybe, you'd be more comfortable in a place where there are more people your age, where you'd be better taken care of. I looked him straight in the eye, without blinking. Are you telling me you want to put me in a nursing home? No, Mom, it's not a nursing home. It's a residence. A nice one, with gardens, activities. I see. Don't take it the wrong way. It's just. We think it would be better for you. More company, more professional attention. I wanted to scream at him, to show him the document right then and there. But I remembered Mr. Roth's words, act normal. So I took a deep breath and said, all right, Matthew, if you think it's for the best. He looked surprised. Really? You're not upset? I'm tired, son. Tired of a lot of things. If you two think this is the path, then fine. He hugged me awkwardly. Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd understand. On Monday, we'll go visit the place. It's really nice. You're going to like it. He left my room, relieved. And I sat there, counting the hours. Because on Monday, we weren't going to visit any nursing home. On Monday, they were going to receive the notification that would change everything. That night, I laid out my best dress. The navy blue one with silver buttons that Arthur bought me for our 40th anniversary. I trimmed my nails. I fixed my hair. Because I knew that in 3 days, everything was going to explode. And when it did, I wanted to look dignified, powerful, like the woman they never should have underestimated. Monday dawned with a gray sky, as if even the weather knew something big was about to happen. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I showered calmly. I put on the navy blue dress. I put on light makeup. I styled my hair with care, pulling my white hair back into an elegant bun. I looked in the mirror, and I saw a different woman, not the invisible old woman I had been for 3 years. I saw someone who was about to reclaim her dignity. I went down to the kitchen at 7 o'clock. I made coffee. I set the breakfast table with clean placemats. Chloe came down at 7:30, surprised to see me up so early. "Good morning, Eleanor. Did something happen? You look very dressed up." "Good morning, Chloe. Nothing happened. I just felt like getting up early." She looked at me suspiciously, but said no more. Matthew came down minutes later. "Mom, after work today, we're going to go see that residence. Does 6 o'clock in the evening work for you?" I smiled. "That sounds perfect, son." At 9 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rang. I was in the living room, pretending to read a magazine. Chloe answered the door. "Good morning. Mrs. Chloe Cifuentes?" "Yes, that's me. I have a court notification for you and for Mr. Matthew Cifuentes. Please sign here." I heard the scratch of the pen on paper. The door closed. Chloe's footsteps approached the living room. She held a large manila envelope in her hands. "What is this?" she muttered, tearing the envelope open with trembling hands. She pulled out the documents. She began to read. Her face went from pale pink to a deathly white in a matter of seconds. "What? What is this?" she whispered. She sank onto the sofa, reading and rereading. "Matthew," she screamed, her voice hysterical. "Matthew! Get down here now!" My son ran down the stairs, terrified. "What's wrong?" Chloe threw the papers at him. "Read this! Read this now!" Matthew grabbed the documents. His eyes scanned the lines. Once, twice. The color drained from his face. "No, it can't be," he whispered. "What is this, Matthew?" Chloe shrieked, jumping to her feet. "Why does this paper say your mother owns 50% of this house?" Matthew looked at me. I held his gaze, calm, serene. "Mom, you did this?" I stood up slowly. "Yes, Matthew. I did." "Why?" Chloe screamed, tears of rage in her eyes. "Why would you do this to us?" "Because 3 years ago," I said in a calm but firm voice, "I loaned my son $300,000 to buy this house." And he signed a document before a lawyer acknowledging that debt. A document that included a very clear clause. If he didn't pay me back in 5 years, I would have the right to 50% of this property. Chloe spun on Matthew like a snake. "You knew this?" Matthew stammered. I signed it, but I thought Mom would never use it. I thought it was just a formality." "A formality?" Chloe was on the verge of hysteria. "You told me we bought this house with your money. You lied to me, Matthew. I was going to pay her back." "You were? When? When were you going to pay her?" "It's been 3 years, and you never said a word." I walked to the dining room table. I took a copy of the full document from my purse and placed it on the table. "It's all here," I said. "The promissory note, the agreement, the signatures, all legally registered with Mr. Arthur Hayes, public notary number 37, all in order, all legal, all irrefutable." Chloe snatched the papers with trembling hands. She read them, reread them. Then she looked at me with a hatred you could feel physically. "This is a trap, a manipulation. You're a manipulative old woman." Something in me snapped, but not from sadness, from power. "Manipulative?" I repeated, my voice icy. "I'm manipulative for protecting what's mine?" "Tell me, Chloe, who is the manipulator?" The woman who gave almost $300,000 so her son could have a home? Or the woman who, for months, treated me like trash, forbade me from sitting at my own table, ordered me around like a servant, and planned to lock me in a nursing home to get her house back? The silence was deafening. Yes, I continued. I heard everything. The conversation where you said my scent filled the house. Where you told your friends I was an inconvenience. Where you convinced my son to lock me away in a decent $5,000 a month facility because it was cheaper than having me here. Matthew closed his eyes. Mom. No, Matthew. I cut him off. No more. For 3 years, I became invisible in this house. In my house, the house I helped pay for. I accepted humiliation. I endured contempt. I stayed quiet when you treated me like I didn't exist. But when I heard you planning to lock me away, that's when my patience ended. Chloe was sobbing on the sofa. You can't do this to us. We have children. We have a family. I had a family too, I replied. Until you two decided I wasn't part of it. I walked over to Matthew. I looked him straight in the eyes. Son, I gave you that money out of love. Because you are my blood. Because I believed you would care for me as I cared for you. But I was wrong. You chose. You chose a woman who treated me like garbage. You chose to stay silent while I was humiliated. You chose to ask her permission to help your own sick mother. Tears were rolling down Matthew's cheeks. Forgive me, Mom. Forgiveness doesn't change what happened, I said. Now, you listen to me. Both of you. This house is legally 50% mine. I have 3 options. Stay here and exercise my right to live in my property. Demand you pay me the $300,000 in full, or force the sale of the house and split the profits. Chloe lifted her head. What are you going to do? I looked at her with the same coldness she had shown me for months. I haven't decided yet, but I'll tell you one thing for sure, Chloe. The space you denied me at your table, it was the same roof you're about to lose. The silence that followed was as thick as concrete. Chloe was crying on the sofa, her hands covering her face. Matthew stood staring at the floor, defeated. And I remained, firm, in the middle of the living room, holding my dignity like a shield. You can't do this to us, Chloe whispered through her sobs. This house is all we have. My children are growing up here. Our life is here. Your life? I repeated, my voice sharp. And where was my life when you forbade me from coming down to dinner? When you sold my husband's furniture for $100? When you told me this house was yours and that I was just living here rent-free? She didn't answer. Matthew finally spoke. Mom, I'm begging you. Tell me what you want. Money? Respect? What do you need to not take our house? I looked at him with a mixture of pain and disappointment. The only thing I needed, son, was for you to treat me like your mother, not an inconvenience. But it's too late for that. At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was Mr. Roth. I had asked him to come by this morning, after they received the notification. I opened the door myself. Good morning, Mrs. Eleanor, he greeted me in a professional voice. Good morning, Mr. Roth. Please, come in. He entered with his leather briefcase, his impeccable gray suit, and a presence that commanded immediate respect. Chloe and Matthew looked at him as if he were an executioner. Allow me to introduce myself, Mr. Roth said. I am Samuel Roth, an attorney specializing in family and property law. I legally represent Mrs. Eleanor Cifuentes. I'm here to explain the legal situation you are in. He opened his briefcase and took out more documents. As you have now read in the notification, Mrs. Eleanor is legally the co-owner of 50% of this property. The document signed 3 years ago before the notary, Mr. Hayes, is completely valid and has been registered. There is no way to contest it. But there has to be something, Chloe stammered. There is nothing, Mr. Roth replied firmly. Mr. Cifuentes had 5 years to repay the debt. He did not a single dollar. Therefore, the co-ownership clause was automatically activated. Legally, Mrs. Eleanor has 3 options, which I, as her representative, must present to you. He placed 3 folders on the table. Option 1. Demand immediate and full repayment of the $300,000, plus legal accumulated interest over 3 years, which totals approximately $345,000. If you cannot pay, We proceed with foreclosure on the property. Chloe whimpered. Option 2. Mrs. Eleanor exercises her right of co-ownership and remains living here indefinitely. You would not be able to sell, rent, or modify the property without her consent, nor could you ask her to leave. That would be illegal. Matthew closed his eyes. Option 3. We proceed with a forced sale of the property. The profits are divided 50-50 after the mortgage is settled. Each party receives what they are owed, and you go your separate ways. No, Chloe cried. No. This house is worth almost $1.2 million. If we pay off the mortgage, we still owe $600,000. We'd only get $300,000 each. That's not enough to buy anything decent. You're destroying us. I walked toward her slowly. Am I destroying you, Chloe? For months, you destroyed my self-esteem, my dignity, my place in this family. You turned me into nothing. And now that I have the power to do the same to you, you finally realize how it feels. I turned to Mr. Roth. Can I make my decision now? Of course, Mrs. Eleanor. I took a deep breath. I looked at my son. This 43-year-old man who was once the little boy who slept cuddled up next to me. I saw his red eyes, his shattered face, his guilt, and I felt something break inside me. It wasn't revenge I wanted. It was freedom. I've made a decision, I said in a firm voice. I am going to sell my 50%, but not to you. I'm going to sell it on the open market, to whoever offers the best price. And with that money, I am going to buy my own home, small, simple, but mine, where no one can tell me where I can sit or what I can touch. Mom, please, Matthew begged. No, son. My decision is made. You made yours when you planned to lock me in a nursing home. Now, live with the consequences. Chloe stood up, furious. This is revenge. You're just a bitter old woman. Mr. Roth intervened, his voice sharp. Ma'am, I suggest you watch your words. You are speaking to the co-owner of this house. Any further verbal or physical aggression could result in additional legal charges. Chloe collapsed back onto the sofa. Matthew approached me. Mom, will you ever forgive me? I looked him in the eyes. Forgiveness doesn't erase the damage, Matthew. It doesn't give me back the 3 years of humiliation. It doesn't give me back the dignity I lost. But it also doesn't stop you from earning it back. Someday, maybe. If you learn what it means to respect the person who gave you life. I turned to Mr. Roth. Proceed with the sale of my share. I want it done quickly and cleanly. It will be done, Mrs. Eleanor. I walked up the stairs to my room. Behind me, I heard Chloe's sobs and the shattered silence of my son, but I didn't look back. Because for the first time in 3 years, I was walking with my head held high, without fear, without shame, without asking permission to exist. 6 months later, I am sitting on the balcony of my condo. It's small, just 2 bedrooms, but it has something that 2-story house never had. It's completely mine. It's in Santa Monica, 3rd floor, with a balcony full of pots where my purple bougainvillea are growing, along with basil, rosemary, and the white gardenias Arthur loved so much. From here I can see the street, people walking, kids playing, life happening without asking my permission to exist. I bought this place with the money from the sale of my share of the house. Mr. Roth found a buyer in 3 weeks, an investor who paid a good price, $350,000. Clean, for me, after all the paperwork. I bought this condo with cash. I had about $50,000 left over, which I invested in a retirement fund that gives me a small monthly check. It's not much, but it's enough. And above all, it's mine. No one can take it from me. No one tells me where to sit. No one forbids me from cooking in my kitchen. No one makes me feel invisible. Here, in this small space, I got back something I had lost. My identity. I started meeting up with friends I had abandoned. Women my age who understand what it means to survive. We have coffee on Thursdays. We go to the farmer's market on Saturdays. We laugh about things only we understand. I signed up for a watercolor painting class. I'm not very good, but I like it. It makes me feel alive. On Sundays, I cook my famous lasagna. The smell fills the whole building, and my neighbors knock on the door to ask if I'm selling. I give them portions. They bring me sweet rolls or sometimes tamales. That's how you build a community. With respect, with reciprocity, with love that doesn't hurt. And Matthew? It's been 6 months since that morning. I heard nothing from him for the first few weeks. Then, about a month later, I got a text. "Mom, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry." I didn't answer right away. I let that message breathe on my phone for a few days. Finally, I wrote back. "Forgiveness is a process, son, not a word. If you want to earn me back, start by respecting who I am, not who you want me to be." 2 more months passed. Then I got a call. It was Matthew. He was crying. "Mom." Chloe left me. I stayed silent. She couldn't handle the pressure, having to sell the house, moving to a smaller place, her friends finding out about everything. She took the kids and went to her mother's. She filed for divorce. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied, but I didn't. I just felt sad for my son. "I'm sorry to hear that, Matthew. I'm all alone, in a 2-bedroom apartment over in Downey. I work all day. I see my kids every other weekend. And all I can think about is everything I lost because I didn't value you." His voice broke. Do you think you can ever forgive me?" I looked out my window. The bougainvillea on the balcony swayed in the breeze. "Matthew," I said, my voice soft but firm, "forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back to the way things were. It means learning, growing, changing. Are you willing to do that?" "Yes, Mom. Anything." "Then let's start slowly. 1 phone call a week. 1 coffee a month. No expectations, no demands. Just 2 people rebuilding what was broken." "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. "Thank you." Now, 6 months later, Matthew calls me every Wednesday. He tells me about his job, his kids, how hard it is to be a single dad. I listen. Sometimes I give him advice. Sometimes I just say, "You're going to be okay, son." Last month, he came to visit. He brought flowers, white gardenias. He sat in my small living room and looked around. "It's nice here, Mom. It feels peaceful." "Because no one here makes me feel like I'm in the way," I replied. He looked down. "I am so sorry I ever made you feel that way." "I know, and we're working on that." Before he left, he hugged me. A long, sincere hug. The kind of hug I had been waiting for years. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. I've always loved you, even when you hurt me. But love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. And that's something we both needed to learn." Now, as I write this from my balcony, with a hot cup of coffee in my hands and the sun lighting up my plants, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Peace. It's not a perfect peace. There are still scars. It still hurts to remember. But it's my peace. Built with my own hands, in my own space, with my dignity intact. And if I could say one thing to every woman who is going through something similar, it would be this. Your value does not depend on how much you endure. You are not stronger for staying silent. You are not more loving for accepting humiliation. True strength is in saying, "No more." In defending what is yours, in demanding respect, in remembering that the love that destroys you is not love. It's control disguised as family. And you deserve more, so much more. Because in the end, true wealth isn't in big houses, or elegant tables, or perfect appearances. True wealth is in the respect you have for yourself, and in the space you occupy without asking for permission. That space that no one, ever again, can take away from you. If this story touched something inside of you, leave me a comment telling me where you're reading from. Have you been through something similar? Do you know someone who needs to hear this? Give this video a like if you believe that dignity has no price. And subscribe to keep sharing stories of women who rose up when the world tried to tear them down. Because here in this space, all voices matter, all stories are valid, and no woman is alone. Thank you for joining me on Eleanor's journey. Until the next story.